So it might just be you and me. I know you had a couple of questions that you wanted to address, right?
Oh my gosh. So I am beating myself up a little bit for not starting your course sooner.
Okay.
But then I knew that I needed to like be ready, right?
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
yeah, so now I'm ready.
So when it
Anyway,
comes to the environmental anchors, like you are set. You have tons of cool stuff around you that could work.
oh my gosh. So I have to tell you, I did. I'm working a lot of hours right now, and I did an overnight last night, and I came home
Okay.
at like 8 o'clock, and I looked around my place, and I'm like, you know what? You can like thin this out a little bit.
Nice.
And yeah, so I've been spending the last couple of hours thinning it out, and um,
Okay.
yeah, it's been. But I have to tell you, the environmental. So I have my notes. So environmental anchors. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So I too am super sensitive to what is around me. Like I have these really acute, sensitive sensory things happening for me always, always have. And so so I do pay attention to like things like colors and things not being too crowded. So also the thing for me is about the flow of it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's not just about
Yeah.
things being sporadically placed or having not too much in the space, but also about the flow of it. So that's a thing for me as well. And then when you
Sure.
talk about um, your space, your environment, and I'm like this about my whole place, and always have been, is it's not just about what I see, but it's also about the cabinets and the drawers. Like, because I'll tell you, I just started this new job, and they live in this beautiful, very open, lots of windows, open, like
Sounds great.
no walls, like there's lots,
Open
except
floor
for the
plan.
fact that
Yeah.
open floor plan, right?
Yeah.
High ceilings, the colors are great, the colors are muted.
Hmm.
The environment is just really calm. And out the windows are lots of trees. I mean, it's really a beautiful place. And then I go
Yeah.
in the cabinets and the cupboards,
Eh,
and I'm like, oh Lord, I need to start organizing. And that's not
yeah.
my job, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to do it. But I
Yeah.
I say it in my head. I said, so so that there's for me there, it's about that too. Like having,
Totally.
yeah.
I'm with you, and I wish I had. So my wife and I live together, right? Obviously, we with the kids. Maybe not obviously, but we live together.
Uh-huh.
And I would love. We just talked about this morning. I have three coffee cups that I use day in day out. One of them is black, one of them is white, and they're no frills, no emblems. I don't think like nothing. It's just maybe porcelain or clay. I don't know what that is made out of, but it's just plain Jane coffee cup. And then I have one travel one, which is like a metal, just cup, right? And that's
Like
pretty
this.
much all I use. Yeah, but it's black. I like matte black. I
Okay.
like anything black is I prefer.
Yeah.
So those are my three day in day out. And she started using my white one, and so the only issue is like when I feel like the black one, that's I just feel like it. Like it just feels like I need to relax more, and that the matte black one for some reason helps me relax more, and the white one livens me up a little bit. And so I just kind of listen to what feels right, and it sounds super small and insignificant, but it makes a difference. Like I feel more or less relaxed based on what color or lack of color I'm choosing. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, I noticed you're starting to use the my cup, and she's like, yeah, I like it. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to like let's just focus on let's redesign our cupboards here, like what's inside of it, and rather than having all these various mugs from different places and they have different words on them and they don't match, it drives me nuts. Maybe
Yeah.
it's time to minimize. And she's like, yeah, maybe it is. So I'm super excited that maybe we'll get, one, two, maybe three options and just have it simplified. And that for me, that that minimal, simplified look, even in a cupboard, like knowing it's there, opening it up and seeing it, I think would be amazing. I really want that. I want plates that are just one color. And for right now, we have white with like little red trim on it we got from our wedding. And they're nice, but I just want black, or I just want white. Yeah. Like just something super simple. Like it feels so good to my system. And so, yeah, I hear you. I think it does make a big difference. These little things, they go a long way.
It's the little things. And I have to tell you, I have never spoken with anyone that, except for you, that has that articulates these little things that do make a difference.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want to have too much choice. Because the choice causes a little chaos.
Yeah.
And I want to, it's a functional item, right? A coffee cup is a functional item. I also used to have coffee cups from everywhere that I went, and they're all gone. Like about 9 years ago, I downsized, and I literally, before I moved here, I was living in a room for rent. It was like separate from the house, but I had 4 cups, 4 forks, 4 plates, 4 knives, 4. That was it, just in case someone might come over, which never really happened because my place was too small. I was in one room to make it simple.
Yeah.
So for me, this is like a mansion. I also am in the space, so I can have. I think I can handle more, but I still keep it as simple. The only thing that I have a lot of is books. I have way too many books, and every book on your list, on your website, I have every single one. Yes, and I've read half of them. Yeah. Right now, I'm reading about narcissism. That's nice. Frightening. Yeah, the tidiness. Everything has its place. Everything in its place. Like when I was raising children, I would tell my children, when you get something, put it back where you got it from.
Sure.
Don't just leave it somewhere. Put it back where you got it from.
Yeah. That's the idea. I wish my kids. That's a fight that I don't pick with them. Yeah. If their rooms are messy, maybe once a week I'll tell them, hey, it's time to clean your rooms. But generally, it's not a fight I pick. But I wish they would just clean it.
Well, but you can close the door and you don't have to look at it.
Yeah, right. It's not that big of a deal. It's just not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And you don't have to live in it. You might have to go into it, but you don't have to live in it.
What I have told my son, like he is a Lego fiend, and he has this mega desk in his room that's just filled with stuff he's built. And then it gets so full, he starts to put them on the ground, and he keeps it out of the way. And I'm like, this is getting a bit much, dude. And then eventually it starts to trickle into like the walking path. And I tell him, at this point, I cannot enter your room. So if you want me to be able to come in here, you're going to have to start cleaning up, because I'm not going to come in and like step on Legos and stuff. So there is like a natural kind of consequence to if you just keep building stuff and not putting it away, eventually people aren't going to hang out with you. In your space.
Lighting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. All these light bulb moments went off when I was watching your videos. And by the way, I'm really glad that I waited, because the videos are really super helpful. Yeah. Lighting.
After you share, I'll show you the newest. It wasn't in the video, but I'll show you my newest edition after you share, because I made a big upgrade since the video.
Okay. So I have a salt lamp.
What is a salt lamp?
So a salt lamp is a big Himalayan chunk of salt, and you put a bulb inside of it, and you have to have a particular bulb to heat the lamp, so that the ions from the lamp, it's calming in the room, but the light is also calming. And right now it's not on, but which I can run up and put it on, but I'll show you what it is.
Yeah. Oh, I see it. Yeah. Cool. Oh, yeah. There it is. I looked it up also. Yeah. That's super cool. I get it.
Yeah. It's there's my weighted blanket. There's some books.
Yeah.
Like I really am all about making my space safe and comfortable, because this is my space.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So yeah, the Himalayan salt lamp is the lighting in it is really kind of like this amber kind of color that you were talking about. And it's just beautiful. It's really beautiful. It also helps me with fear of the boogeyman. Like if I have some lighting, then I'm not, especially I'm out here where there's no lights, right?
Yeah, true.
And if I have to get up in the middle of the night, but I had it in my other room too, but if I have to get up in the middle of the night, there's at least some kind of lighting that's happening that's not disruptive to my sleep, and you know, like that. So I have that, but I'll tell you a funny story. Another thing about lights. So you know those, here I'll show you this. You know those lights on the TV? You see the red light on the TV?
Yeah.
Okay. That just bugs the shit out of me. I hate it. I can't put the clock on the microwave. And those lights on the TV just bother me. So clearly I'm not the only one, because on Amazon you can get these little stickers that block out these lights. But if you block out that light, the remote control doesn't work.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm stuck.
You'd have to manually take it off and on, right? And so is it at that point, what bothers you more, getting up and manually turning it off, you know, taking it off and on when you want to watch TV, or just having that red light on all the time? Like what would cause you more of a neuroception of danger, basically? Right. That's kind of what it comes down to, is these decisions we have to make, is which one would be more of irritation?
That's a good question. So I really don't like the light, like in a big way. I thought about putting something in front of it, so that might help, because I don't mind the glow of it from like around something. So I thought about putting something in front of it. So I may just put something in front of it, but it has to be low enough that it doesn't block the screen, which is really weird, because this is the first time I've had a TV in 8 or 9 years. So I don't really care that much about if something's blocking it. I care more about the light. Okay. So yeah, so I'm definitely going to have to figure something out about that.
I wonder if you put like a little trinket, something that just kind of makes you feel good. It's like a little animal or trinket or something like that, a clay thing or a porcelain thing. Yeah. So it's there, it's unobtrusive to the screen, and I think the signal would go around it, however that works. But something like that, I wonder if that could work and would feel okay for you. I might add this to the lesson, because I think that the point here is to, like with environmental anchors, with any of these anchors, is what helps you feel more grounded, obviously, what helps you to have more neuroceptions of safety. But we could easily get hyper-focused on these things. And then it becomes, you know what I mean? So there's a difference between this helps me, like, you know, me having 2 options for mugs. Like I know for my system, it just kind of feels right. And that works for me. The simplicity, the minimalness, that works for me. Mm-hmm. That's a lot different than me, you know, like, I don't know, like buying numerous mugs and trying them out and like losing sleep over, oh my God, which one's the right one? Like that's a heck of a lot different. You know what I mean? Like I think these things, any of these wellness things that we do can go, if we don't utilize this dysregulated state, if we don't utilize it properly, it can just be reinforcing. You know what I mean? So if we, the thing is to listen to like what helps my system calm a bit, what helps me to, and that would come from a neuroception of safety. So what helps my system calm it just a bit more? Yes. Versus like, so if I have like flight fight energy that's kind of stuck there, and then I pick up this mug, I notice a sense of settling. But if I have this flight fight energy and now I'm using this flight fight energy, instead of it being settled, it's still there. And now I'm hyper focused on wires and mugs and little red lights and all these things. Then it just kind of like, I'm not settling it. I'm not exactly using it either. It's just kind of staying there. And the hyper focusing and the lack of mindfulness, that's probably the difference. The lack of mindfulness to what actually helps settle, that could be just reinforcing of the state in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I definitely want to encourage people to be mindful, like what helps you settle down, what helps you calm, what helps you breathe easier. And I know for me, that simple option of those mugs, there's just there's just a sense of a little bit more groundedness to start my morning or end my night. I like that. I found that I like having coffee in the morning and at night. It doesn't keep me awake exactly. It's just the end of the day. I love reading and having coffee around 6 p.m. Or after dinner, basically. It just feels fantastic just to read, have a moment of quiet. And usually it's just like 20 minutes while my son's in the shower, because I kind of hang out with him, make sure he's safe and everything, and that he's actually cleaning. But I just kind of, for 20 minutes, while he's getting undressed, he goes in the shower, he gets dressed, he's drying off. That's kind of my time just to have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And in the evening, it's the black mug usually. And to read something, and it's just that settling. So it's like, I really want to encourage you. I want to encourage everyone taking the course to really mindfully ask yourself, does this help me settle or not? And if it's just like I'm losing sleep over, or I'm really stressing about the little tiniest details, that may be the wrong direction, that may be actually making things maybe not worse, but reinforcing.
And that makes sense. And for me, I kind of have to start at the beginning. So that's like the solving it, but I have to start at the beginning, like with this new job, being in this new space. Not only am I in this new space at their home, but I also am in a new neighborhood. So this neighborhood is very loud. There's lots of cars, the train. I'm okay with the train. I love the sound of the train. But there's a lot of mowers and blowers and weed eaters. And that sends me.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of, the other thing that sends me are yard signs with advertisements on it.
Okay.
And I got to tell you something. I pick them up. I go around the neighborhood and pick them up and take them to the dump. I can't take it. I'm one of those.
They might have something worked out with the homeowner saying, hey, I'll give you a discount if you have my sign out here, though.
No, these are political signs and they're business signs.
Those. Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah.
Is it for any politician or just certain parties?
Well, I don't know. We're doing some primaries here, and so they're everywhere, but they're done and they haven't picked them up. And so even like even the ones that say like, we'll buy your house cash, those signs, right? So first of all, I looked it up before I decided to start picking them up. Okay. I looked it up to see what the laws were, and they legally need to get permission. And I know they're not getting permission, so probably I'm taking them all down. Yeah. So this is what's happening in the environment. So
I've noticed that here. They're everywhere. It's like school board stuff, supervisor this, state assembly, wherever the heck it is. They're everywhere. They are everywhere. And I live pretty close to a school, so it's like they want parents to see them, so they're everywhere. And it's like it's annoying. So I notice it too. It's like it's just irritating. It's these little teeny tiny insults, but they do add up over time. The problem can be, though, again, is so if we have some flight fight stuff inside of us, we have this irritation, and maybe it's just kind of there all day. We want to be mindful of it. We want to help it calm down by increasing the amount of safety cues. So that could be the lighting, smells, movement, all those anchors, safety anchors in the course, right? Those kinds of things. The problem could be when our brain tells us the solution to our problem is to do whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so we have this irritation, and so our brain says the solution is to yell at somebody. Like, no, that's not the solution. The solution is to calm down. Yelling at somebody and getting them to change their behavior, or I don't know, whatever else. But like, that could be an issue. If we're hyper focused on one thing, that is probably a symptom of the energy we have inside of us. So we want to increase the safety first and then address whatever needs to be addressed, basically.
Yeah. So one of the and I understand that, and
Okay.
one of the things that I do is I really pay attention to where the mowers and blowers are. I go the opposite direction because I know they're only
Okay.
going to be there for a period of time.
Yeah.
It's also an area where there's lots of blooming happening now. So I really kind of try to focus on the blooming. And
there you go. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then, yeah, so
that's a way to like,
a very conscious effort.
Yeah, that's right. So you're mindful of what you're feeling. And then you're like, let me choose to go a different direction. Let me choose to focus on something else rather than let me go tell that person to shut off their lawnmower because it is irritating me right now. Right. That's way different. But someone could easily take that irritation, that anger, and go say, hey, you change your behavior because it's affecting me the wrong way. I don't like the way it's affecting me. Versus, your behavior is within the normal realm of, behavior. And it does irritate me. That's true. So the way to solve that is to focus on things that bring me more neuroceptions, more cues of safety, like focusing on flowers or focusing on a certain path or walking in the sunlight versus the shade or vice versa.
Yes.
Like all those things. When I go to my kids, he does karate. It's very loud. There's tons of noise. It's also like there's gymnastics going on. There's parents in and out. There's kids crying. Like it's a lot of, I definitely feel irritation. It's not enough to get me to like run away, or yell at people, but it's definitely enough for me to notice it and feel irritation. So I always bring my AirPods Pro. They do a really good job of dampening sound. So I'm reading something, I'm watching him do karate. I have these in my ears, and it's a noticeable diminishment of that irritation, which I think for me is a good idea. I want to be there. I want to be able to like support him and smile and give him encouragement. But if I'm irritated, I know that my capacity to do so lessens. It's not completely gone, but it lessens. And so rather than me saying, hey, everybody shut up, it's like, let me do something. What can I do to accommodate pretty reasonable behavior, people's normal day-to-day behavior?
Yeah, I do the same thing. I put earplugs in, although because of my hypervigilance, I have to be careful about doing that. Because also where I walk the baby, people jog. And so when they come up from behind you, they don't say, I'm behind you.
Oh, yeah.
And so I get super startled. And so I'm always, looking back. The other thing that I do is I hum to myself. And so I hear that in my head. And that's a constant like white noise as opposed to hearing what's external. And so that helps me as well. And then most importantly, recognize when I'm done. Recognize when I need to go back to the quiet house, when I can't handle the noise any longer. Like I have finally learned that I don't need to endure this. It's like I can walk away. I can leave. Whereas in my past experience, I always learned to endure whatever was happening to me. So that's how I managed it. So, so now I know I don't have to endure this anymore. And if our walk is 20 minutes and I've had enough, then we go back. If I'd prefer to stay out longer, sometimes I can stay for an hour, depending on the level of what is going on.
Yeah.
But I've only been on the job a week, so I'm practicing and I'm taking pictures of the flowers and I'm smiling at the people as, the people walk around. There's a park there, so we go watch the children play. Nice. And the baby's only 3 months old, so she's not doing any of that. But she likes to watch, but that's about it. I
want to show you something.
Yeah.
As far as my lighting, hopefully you'll be able to see it, watch this, or listen and watch. Hey Siri, calm office. I think there's too much light. I have too much natural light.
Siri's taking a break.
Take two. Hold on. Oh, I think it did it. There's just so much natural light coming in. Hey Siri, lights, camera, action. Did you see it brighten?
Yeah.
So I do that when I'm recording. Hey Siri, calm office.
Oh.
So I have I put 4. I didn't do it. I paid someone to do 4 lights in the ceiling, and they're like can lights that are recessed.
Yeah.
And then in those can lights, I have 4 smart bulbs, and this is also a smart bulb right here. And so I connect those to Siri to my phone.
Yeah.
And so I can tell it to turn off. I have 2 settings for recording, 1 for calm, but I can individually change each light bulb's brightness. So sometimes when I just want to read in the corner, I'll turn the brightness up above me.
Uh-huh.
And the other ones I might turn down. I could put them to different, I don't do it, but I could do red, I could do purple, I could do blue, all these different colors if I wanted to. I don't do that. But yeah, it's like tons of control over lighting in this space now. And I love it. It's, and just using my voice to make it super simple.
Uh-huh.
I love it. It's fantastic.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah. It's a fun toy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love technology, so I'm really excited. You sent me the wire organizer. I'm really excited about getting that.
Good. I can't stand wires.
Yeah, I know it's annoying. I went out of my way to hide them and tuck them in underneath my desk, but I didn't want to drill into the desk, so I just have them like with the 3M tape and hooks. But they keep sagging down, and so when I sit cross-legged like right now, I touch the wires with my leg, and again, super simple. It's not a big deal, but it's just a little irritation that if I can buy a wire organizer that will solve the problem, it's just like I get to focus on what I'm working on. I get to focus on listening to you and not feel that little bit of irritation. Again, not a big deal, but noticeable. Yeah.
Yeah, not a big deal. Maybe to somebody else.
Sure.
I am, again, very acute with the sound.
Yeah.
And like I can be in somewhere and I can hear somebody else's conversation that is like on the other side of the room. And it can irritate me. Or there'll be like the mowers and blowers and weed whackers and all that. And humming, just sounds. And so I'll say to someone, do you hear that? What is that sound? Do you hear that sound? And they're like, what sound?
Yeah.
Like that sound, that sound that, and I try to replicate it. And no, I don't hear that. Yeah. And I get stuck on it. I get stuck on it.
Yeah.
And, so I have to like force myself to do something different, to have my focus go somewhere else so that I'm not stuck on whatever sound it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm the same way especially when I'm more like, especially when I'm about to record an episode or even recording for the Building Safety Anchors course. Like I want the lighting to be, I'm not a cinematographer, so I do the best I can. Mm-hmm. But I get anxious. I get nervous before these things. It's different. It's weird talking to a camera by yourself with no one here. Like it's kind of anxiety producing. It's weird. Mm-hmm. And so I always have this like a little bit of flight by energy or more flight when I do these things. And I want the sound to be just right. And I want the video to be just right, or as just right as I can get it to be. And so that's kind of always there. Mm-hmm. So then when I'm trying to record and then I hear the dogs across the street barking, like it's just that one little insult to the system that is like, it's too much. And now I'm like, I really am irritated. And like I feel a shift, I feel more of a flight, maybe more of an aggressive kind of fight. Now I'm not going to go out there and yell at the dogs, but there definitely is that like, like I'm gritting my teeth and it really is kind of frustrating. And then, and then thoughts pop in my head of like, all this time has been wasted, and why won't they keep their damn dogs quiet? Why do they keep them outside in the backyard? Why don't they bring them in the house? Like all these things pop in my mind because it's just that one little thing that's just too much in that moment. Yeah. So you're enjoying the course though so far? You're in the environmental anchors?
I am I'm starting movement.
Okay.
So I do have some questions about that.
Okay. Are you doing the PDFs or are you watching the videos, or are you doing both?
All of it.
Okay. The PDFs, I have to update those because I did add to because I was doing the video lessons and I added to it, so I should update the PDFs, but they're still relevant. It sounds like you're getting like the polyvagal stuff. It sounds like you're really getting it, like that fundamental kind of information.
Yeah, I am getting it. And in my daily living, I'm acutely aware of that which causes some nervous system irritation.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm becoming more, where before I was so shut down that I didn't even know when I was cold. I mean, I remember having these conversations and it would be cold outside and I'd be wearing a short sleeve t-shirt. Like I couldn't even know that when I was cold. Now I'm more acutely aware of what is going on around me and how it affects my nervous system. And also now what is my next best step forward.
Cool.
And so with that, that's when I, when I use the tools. But the first part of it is the awareness of it. The awareness of, okay, something is stirring, and looking in mind. But first, notice that I'm safe. That's the reality check is the number one. Nice. First, notice that I'm safe, and what is causing me to stir. And then kind of look around and see what is causing me to stir. Okay, now what can I do about that for myself? Nice. You know, and so I have a list of tools that I use. And if something doesn't work, then I use something else. If the next thing doesn't work, then I use something else. And also, I have to say, and it's not, I am in recovery, but it's not just that. The Serenity Prayer for me is something that works in every situation, because it allows me to remember that I have courage to change the things I can.
Yeah.
To accept what I cannot change. And so if I can't change what is externally happening outside, then how can I do it differently so that I'm not stirred inside?
Yeah. Keep that in mind for the cognitive anchors when you get there. I think it's lesson 6.
Okay.
But that's actually a really good example of a top-down words in your brain that are then affecting you. Like, so top down and then calming us, from our thoughts. So that would be that's actually a great example of a cognitive anchor.
I know this is not therapy, but and I will. Okay, so the body anchors. I have not gotten into that yet.
Okay. Are you doing the daily practice, or are you just doing lessons, or what? Like, are you doing the check boxes, the daily practice?
So I'm checking the boxes, but I'm not necessarily doing it daily.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Just curious. And when the next version, I'm going to be launching the next version, and the daily practice. The way it's going to be structured is that there's going to be the lessons that you can watch, and it's going to be structured like it's just an online course. And because some people, I think, just want the lessons and they don't want to do the daily practice. So I'll have the lessons, and then the daily practice will be a printout or a PDF that people can download, which you've already done. And the daily practice is slightly altered, but and I do have recommendations for like day 1 through day 30. But as long as you have some sort of practice that you're implementing, it sounds like you have a pace that you're happy with. I think some structure is better than none. So it sounds like you have something that's working for you so far.
Let me just stick with what we're talking about now with the daily practices. So the daily practices and the journal prompts, I ask myself the questions, and I do the, what it is that you're asking to do. And the journal prompts I have not done yet, but I think they're a great idea, because it's very important to put pen to paper. There's something about the flow that happens pen to paper.
I agree.
So yeah, so
it kind of
like
solidifies things. I feel for me like it makes it more real or solidifies it in some way, my feelings or my thoughts or whatever it is.
And it conjures up more. Like
I think so.
Yeah. And then the other question I had is, you were talking about the challenge. What's that?
It's the daily steps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So body anchors. I haven't done it yet. And I don't even know if I'm even asking a relevant question, but this is where I completely get stuck, is in the body stuff.
Okay.
So if you can give me some guidance on the thoughts in my mind are getting through it, but that's not the right way to approach it, right? The way to approach, I want to be able to do it mindfully without getting all triggered. Like you were talking about, I think it was you. I do so much reading, being still, and how that can be difficult. Was that you? Were you talking about that?
That's something I talk about a lot. Yeah.
Okay. And so the being still is part of it, but the movement is like being still for some. It's the movement that starts to move things. Gotcha. I probably already know the answer, but just doing it a little bit at a time. I think what's happening is my fears getting caught up in. I actually said to myself, boy, he's starting off with the hard stuff pretty early on.
It's interesting. It's so, I would say that body would, for me, would not be as hard. Now, if you ask me to dance, that's something different.
Yeah.
But body anchors for me are not. So I thought that would be less, but I think it's completely okay to pace yourself or to skip it and come back when you're ready. So maybe if you feel more comfortable with cognitive anchors, I don't see why you cannot skip. In my mind, they were building on each other, but I don't think it has to be in that order. That's just what I thought would be. That made the most sense to me, but that may not be true for each individual person. So I think it's okay to skip like ahead to cognitive anchors or music. If you feel like that would be more helpful, go ahead and skip.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like when you get to the music anchors or the cognitive anchors that you're going to be lacking something. They each live on their own. And my one idea was to actually sell these individually as their own modules. But in my mind, they all go together. They do live on their own, but it is a comprehensive thing. Like it does go together. So I'm not sure what I want to do with that. But anyhow, the cognitive anchors, the music anchors, the body anchors, each of these 6 different anchors can live independently on their own. So there's no, I don't think there's any harm in skipping around and doing. I would focus on one at a time though, instead of doing half of one and then half the other. Yeah, that's what I would recommend to you.
Okay.
Now in the daily practice, the check boxes, that I do have more of a specific recommendation, and that's just based on what I think is best. And that may have, if you do skip ahead, there might be something that's a little bit out of whack. I don't think it's a huge deal, but there might be a couple things that wouldn't make, that you might have to skip or something or other.
Okay.
You're doing it online, so you are going through the one by one sequence. Yes, yeah. The new iteration of building safety anchors I like a lot more because I think it's going to address some of the stuff. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with skipping, and I think that you're not on the 30-day version. You're on the just here's all the steps version.
Yeah.
I believe you can just do whatever you're ready for. So if you want to skip, go ahead and skip.
Okay. Am I missing something as far as the different versions? Did you?
I have made this more complex. Originally, it was 30 days. And a couple people were like, hey, can we have a self-paced version? So I made a self-paced version. Same thing. But it's just, for me, for the person taking it, you wouldn't know. Like it wouldn't make a difference. And then eventually people were buying the self-paced and not the 30 days. So I just closed the 30-day out completely. Some people have access to it still, but it's not like on my website anymore. I don't think. I think I took all that down. So now it's just the self-paced version, which is the one that you are enrolled in. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's that, and now that has just the steps that I recommend, but you can bounce around. There's another. So now what I did was I was adding video, and rather than just adding video, I was like, let me just overhaul this and get this really to where I want it to be based on feedback I've gotten from people, since then. And so now it is going to be more of that course style with the option of here's your steps. So if you just want the course, if you just want the videos and the PDFs, here you go. And then if you want to take the daily practice and do my recommended flow, then there's also a worksheet for that, like a sequence of events that I recommend.
Okay.
So that's like a third version, but it's you don't have to worry about that exactly. Once I launch that, you'll still have access to the one that you're in, and I'll sign you up for the new one.
Okay.
So you'll have access to that as well, and everybody else in the program, I'll put everyone in there automatically because they don't have to pay extra, nothing like that. But for people who sign up brand new, they'll have no idea what the other two versions were. So it's just like background stuff that you really don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
It's the same information, but the way it flows in the third version and the final version will be a little bit different. It's just it's structured differently.
Okay. I mean, I like the questions and the journal prompts because it helps integrate what I'm learning. It's not just a cognitive process in learning it, but it helps me process it through, personalize it, make it mine for my experiences.
Yeah.
And so I really like that part.
Okay. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. That's staying.
Okay.
Yeah, that's staying. But for you, so the new version, if you wanted to do the new version or the updated version, you've already done like all the video stuff that you've done. You just check those off. You've already done that. Mm-hmm. And then the daily practice, you print that out just like you already did. And it's mostly the same. There's a few tweaks that I made that I thought would flow better. There's a couple of different journal prompts. It's mostly the same, but there's a few tweaks that I made just to make it flow a little better. And but it's basically the same. So it's not like you're not like falling behind or anything like that. It's basically the same. It's just restructured for how people want to take the course.
Like I'd mentioned to you before, I've purchased a few things. Like I've purchased Irene Lyon's program, and I have never done it. Have not.
That's normal. People do that. They buy stuff. They don't do it.
Yeah.
How much was Irene Lyons, by the way? Was it the 12-day thing, or was it the free? She has like a free one also, I think.
Yeah. No, I think this is 30 days and $200.
Okay.
Yeah. And
she does a good job, I think, with like movement and whatnot. I think I'm not sure what the one you bought, but I know she has some in-person things she does that involves a lot of movement.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she does that. So are you familiar with TRE?
Just the basic concept.
Okay. So that's something that well, what I do is there's a woman by the name of Svava, and she has a group twice a month. So and she's all about polyvagal. Like you guys probably have a good conversation. She's all about polyvagal, but this is body work. And so she does have like sessions. I have not done it yet because I know that I need to like have really good support before I do something like that.
Okay.
But I do read her stuff, and I've read about it, and it's mostly for people who have a one-time trauma. But I asked her about the developmental trauma and the way that she sets it up so that people with developmental trauma can utilize the course and not be re-traumatized. So it's the titration of it, right? The tiny bit at a time, stop when it gets too much.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm probably going to do some of that maybe in July because I have a couple of weeks off work just to
Right on. Yeah. So I don't know if someday I might make something that is specifically for I don't want to, I guess, trauma releasing or trauma discharging or whatever. I might make something that specifically targets the stuck defensive stuff that's within someone.
Yeah.
But right now, my focus is on the safety aspect of things. I think it's neglected, and I think it's extremely important.
And I agree, because wow, that's a big word. Are you safe? Like, really? What does that really mean?
Right.
You know, like when someone says, "Are you safe?" My automatic, "Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe? Are you safe?" My automatic answer is, I never feel safe. I'm never safe. So,
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? What is safe? Yeah. What does feeling safe mean? So this helps me understand what feeling, it breaks it down for me. It helps me know what feeling safe means and how I can manipulate, or how I can set up my environment in general and my life so that I am safe. So now when I have that question presented to me, do you feel safe? Or when do you feel safe? I actually have an answer. Like, I have an answer of when I do and when I don't, rather than blanket, I'm never safe. I never feel safe. Everybody's the boogeyman. Every situation is dangerous. But now when I like taking, the environmental factors, if I go into a new situation, rather than having that blanket statement in my head and in my body about that every situation is unsafe, I can look at the situation, have, kind of determined by paying attention to what is actually happening instead of my perception of it.
Yeah.
And indicate each little part, or each little person, or each person, or each experience independently about its safety.
Oh, okay. Nice. And that's what you've gotten out of the environmental anchor so far?
Yeah.
Cool. And then, so with you said that before you didn't really have a good idea of what safety felt like, or what the differentiation between not safe and safe, and like everything was unsafe.
Yeah.
But I know you've done a lot, like you're really into learning about wellness and all this stuff. Did that finally make sense with the first lesson in building safety anchors, or was that something that you came into the course with?
What your course did is it gave me, it broke it down into smaller parts for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, but of course, I do a lot of reading, and I have done a lot of, so I have that general, right? But if I can break it down into smaller parts, and I can identify each part as being a safety anchor,
okay,
then
gotcha.
The experience can be safe.
So it helps you to make it more manageable, break things down with more structure, a little more clarity. Would that be the right word for it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's something I definitely want to strive for with what I'm doing, is clarity, structure, concepts that make sense, and then be able to translate into the real world and your experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure people are finding help through, or maybe clarification or just curiosity through these little conversations that I'm putting out there, and I'm glad that you're a part of them. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I'm really glad that the course has been helpful for you so far.
Yeah,
you got a long way to go.
I do. And I promised you I would do it, and I'm doing it, and I'll do it at my pace, because it does take time.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is, yeah. And like I have to realize and be honest, like with myself, like it's a lot. I put a lot out there, and so rather than tiptoeing around that, I'm just telling people. And actually, the first thing I put in the new printout is, this is not easy. It is a lot, and I could piecemeal it, but to me, it's a whole approach. It's a whole thing. But you're taking it on. That's very admirable.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. It's great stuff. I mean, I love how you put it out there, and next time I will have questions on the other parts.
Okay.
And I will take your advice as far as skipping around.
Good.
Yeah. And I will say that I know where my stuckness is. And so so, I trust you. So, so going through this, if I, to do the body part, the body anchors part, look, I'm already stuttering. I know I can do it, and I trust what you put out there. So between the two, now just there needs to be the courage, and I've got that too. So
I respect that. I think it's fantastic. I appreciate your trust. With the body anchors, the focus is not on trauma releasing or anything. It's the same thing as the environmental anchors, like what helps you feel just a little better, a little bit more safe. And that's really it. And the way I break it down, I'll give you a preview. The way I break it down is not like, hey, feel your stuck defensive energy and then discharge it. That's not the point. The point is like, what just generally feels better. And I talk about small movements, medium movements, and big movements. Mm-hmm. And I leave it up to you to do what feels best for you. The homework is not to go do something that releases your trauma. The homework is not to go and do some huge movement like dancing. I feel personally, I've told you I hate dancing, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, I would break it down into just to help conceptualize, help get clarity, get structure with like, what are we doing here, right? So I break it down into here's just a few different levels of movement and here's what they can look like. And yeah, it easily could tap into that stuck defensive stuff.
Yes.
But the focus needs to be what just generally helps you feel better. So that's the basic idea. I try to, with all these, anchors and these lessons, I try not to make it about, forcing or pushing people to look at the defensive stuff, because that's not what it's about. That's not what PSA is about. So I feel like I handle it as respectfully as I do with the environmental anchors and the cognitive and the imaginative and the memory ones. So it's just as a preview or as an idea of what to expect. You could also look at the PDF and just skim through it and see, is this something I want to do or not? And then you can make that informed decision of yes or no. And if it's a no, then you go on the next one or whatever one appeals to you, and then come back to it when you're ready. Like that's totally okay.
Okay. My guess is, though, that even though it's not your intention, which I know, like you said, it's not, my guess is that wherever people are at, that some of this might tap into the defensive energy.
You're right. 100%. Yep.
Yeah. So
You're right. And so the focus needs to be, and so I do address this, especially with the memory anchors. I thought the memory one would be the most challenging. Mm-hmm. Identifying a safe memory, I thought that would be the most challenging. So I really stressed for people in that one, hey, you have 5 other anchors you've practiced. Use those as preparation for this one if you need to. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're right. And I think with the memory ones, that's where I felt was the most, but I could totally see the body ones, pretty much any of them, but probably body as well being one that could be very intimidating or scary or triggering even. But the focus needs to be on what helps me just feel more grounded, not the other stuff. And if the other stuff comes up, like if someone does a body anchor, they try it out and all of a sudden stuff comes up, it's okay to stop and go take a walk real quick, get outside, or go to your safety environment from the safety environment anchors. Go there, ground yourself, and come back to it, or not. That's okay too. So as these things come up, that's an indication that it's just not time yet. And so we go do something else, come back to it, or leave it alone. But the focus needs to be on what helps me feel safe. That is what helps me just generally feel a sense of betterness or wellness or calm or ease or whatever. That has to be the focus in all the anchors.
And one of the things that helps me be able to come to this is to come to it already grounded.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I like that. I think it's a good mindset. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So do you then come to it grounded and then identify what helps you feel more grounded, or more of a sense of peace or joy or lightness? Like what helps you stay grounded or what helps you enhance it? Like, what's your measure of what's working then? Because I think the
So,
easy measure would be I'm not grounded, and this thing helps me become grounded. That's the most obvious. But there is a benefit, obviously, of being grounded enough, and then coming to these practices, and then identifying. But what would be the measure then? I'm curious for you. What would be the measure of what's successful, what's helpful or not helpful?
so two separate things. One is
Mm.
learning. The learning, I need
Okay.
to come to it in already grounded. So I come
Oh,
in and I need
okay,
to,
gotcha. Just learning
yeah.
part of it. You need to be grounded and then learn, like from the lessons. You mean?
Well, just being grounded and then going to the lessons,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
for environmental anchors, so this is what I learned. I learned that lighting is important and pay attention to my lighting. I learned that color. I learned sounds. So I learned these things,
Yeah.
and then when I'm out in the
Yeah.
world and stuff happens, and I can reflect on what I've learned. So when stuff happens, I'm not grounded, right?
Okay.
So then I reflect on what I've learned, and then I can say
Okay.
what has helped me. That's the process that
Yeah.
is for me.
Yeah. So it wouldn't make sense to go to a lesson when you're irritated and dysregulated and you're pissed off at yard signs and whatnot, and then be like, all
Right.
right, let me learn from Justin. Like that would not be helpful for you. Is kind of what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Like you're not gonna. None of us learn very well in a dysregulated state. Yeah,
Like
that
I
makes
don't
sense.
go to it saying, okay, I'm irritated, this and this and this is happening. Let me see if I can fix myself right now by going
Good.
into the
Yeah.
that's not what's going to happen. It won't
I do
work.
not. I don't. Yeah, I don't advocate for that at all. I don't advocate for. First off, there's nothing to fix. I think for any of us,
Yeah.
but we want to practice these before there's that kind of dysregulation. Learn
Right.
about and practice. And I like
Right.
how you specified learning, but it's learning about and practicing these things from before there's an issue, before there's a crisis, before we're dysregulated. Yeah,
So I can access it when there is something.
exactly. That's exactly you're getting it. Exactly. Yeah, that's the idea. So with building safety anchors, we practice it, we identify it, and then when you actually need to, hopefully you already have this like reservoir of safety that you can pull from
Mm-hmm.
and tap into and feel. Hopefully you have a firmer foundation of safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when something does happen, you're already anchored in your safety state enough to be able to handle it more effectively. But you could also, from that foundation, you could also specifically actively do something to further ground yourself in your safety state. Yeah.
For
If
me,
something, yeah.
it's the reality check is the number one thing that has to happen first, and then I
Okay.
can take these other parts. Like I really have to know that I'm safe first.
Yeah.
Like I'm physically safe. Like I might
Sure.
not feel safe on the inside. It might be all chaotic happening on the inside. So that I'm physically safe. There's no danger around me. And then I can go to, okay, what can anchor that safety? And that's where these parts come in. Is that what anchors the safety?
Love it. That's a fantastic breakdown. Yeah.
Yeah. So is it an insult or an assault?
I don't know. I would say insult because actually I don't know. I guess they're both kind of literally purposeful. If someone's assaulted, it's a purposeful thing that someone else does. If someone's insulted, I guess that's not necessarily purposeful, but generally, yeah, if someone's insulted, it's like, aren't you insulting somebody on purpose? But can't you also be insulted unintentionally?
But
You
it
know?
feels like an assault. Does it feel like an assault?
Gotcha. No, because it's not about me. It's just dogs barking. So I wouldn't say it feels. I wouldn't say I feel assaulted. I feel irritated. I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even say I feel insulted. It's just that's the word I use to indicate that it's like a minor little thing. These little
Yeah.
insults to our system just kind of add up. But I don't assign intentionality to it or anything. No.
So I have this list, and it's called the difference between.
Yeah.
And these two words are perfect for this list. The difference between an insult and an assault. To just kind of really because the differentiation is well, it's situational, but
Sure.
it's like just to identify what each one actually means.
Yeah.
And in fact, I should write it down before I forget.
That's an interesting. I like that. I like that versus or that comparison. I like that a lot. I would, to me, assault has a greater scale to it. Like there's more of like an onslaught. There's an overwhelm to it versus an insult. It feels more, maybe it's intentional, but it feels minor. It feels like an irritation. It feels like a little thing, but it could have a big impact, sure. But it doesn't have that same onslaught kind of overwhelm kind of feel to it. Versus assault for me feels more like that word feels that the way I conceptualize that feels more big, like more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely the perception of what.
Yeah.
Like I have like the difference between visualize and imagine, accurate and correct, retrospect, hindsight, cue and sign, curiosity and wonder, things like that.
Cue and sign?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know yet. I haven't done the work on it. But I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having an agenda and ulterior motive. Livelihood and survival, discretion and discernment, happy and glad. I mean, I have a whole list.
You got a bunch.
I do. Overwhelm and arouse and overstimulated, those three.
Overwhelm, arouse,
overstimulated.
Huh. Okay.
Ritual and ceremony. Deepen and grow. Well, deepen and grow.
Would you differentiate ritual, ceremony, and habit? That's probably way too different. Would you put habit in there, or is that too different?
I think that's too different.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Yeah.
Ritual and ceremony. That's a good one. Yeah.
Denial and avoidance.
How about ritual, ceremony, and routine? You got me stuck on that for some reason.
Oh,
ritual,
routine.
ceremony.
Yeah.
Does that fit, or does that feel too different to you?
Well, so I would say ritual. I would say you said routine and what was the habit? Routine and habit. I like those two together.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Routine and habit. You're adding to my list. Thank you. Yeah. Brave and courage, denial and avoidance, diversion and deflection, structure and schedule, trivialize and minimize, submit and surrender, freeze and shut down. I have that here, which now I know what the difference is. Yeah.
Cool. We got clarity on that.
Yeah. So to give you an example, so those were, what it looks like for me. But when I am walking and somebody comes up from behind me and startles me, no one would know from the outside, but on the inside, I go into a freeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm stuck there until I can. I mean, now I've gotten to a point where, I know when I'm stuck in that I need to start doing some breathing. I need to keep my eyes open. I need to look around to make sure that, to see that I'm safe, a reality check, all these tools that I have, but I definitely am in a freeze but nobody would know it.
No, I got you. But yeah, the shift happens inside of us and we can feel it.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't come across obviously, but inside we feel something shifting within us. Yeah. So
one day, it was this past week, someone came from behind me. I was in my thoughts doing something and I wasn't looking around and paying attention, and somebody came up from behind me and came really close to me. And he was jogged past me, and I yelled out, "What the Yeah. It was just like, I was surprised myself because it hit me so hard, but it kept me from going into the freeze.
Right. Yeah. 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 Utilizing that flight fight stuff and actually, because it's not stuck at that point. And so yelling, getting someone to back off, by either physically or with our voice, screaming for help. All these things can like actually utilize that energy. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
Versus immobilizing while that energy is still in us. Yeah. That can help out.
Yeah.
We got to be careful though, because we can't just go around yelling at what the fuck at everybody.
Well, I've never done that before. I usually just.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was the first time I've ever done that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know that it's not something I can continue to do, but, okay. So what's worse for me? Yelling out like that or holding on to it, kicking into that freeze, right? Because what happens with the freeze is the adrenaline starts to pump, and it takes a while for that to dissipate. It could take me in a quick event like that. It could take me an hour or two to feel okay again after that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
I can't tell you what's best for you. That's up to you. But it sounds like I think that we have this just like this impulse to do something and saying what the fuck, or saying like, hey, back off. Like these are things that might be necessary in the situation. Maybe saying what the fuck is not necessary, but it's also not harmful either, unless that person gets triggered and now they act on it. Like that, I guess it could be. But yeah, saying these things is not necessarily a bad thing, so like telling someone to back off or whatever, like it could be a very healthy thing. So it's like a contextual thing.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, that thing you sent me, the was it Psychology Today? The polyvagal theory, the water analogy.
Yeah.
She used freeze and shutdown simultaneously. I can bring it up, but it's little things like that. I think they go a long way. Like it's important to differentiate those.
So I can differentiate those in some of my behaviors, because when I'm in therapy and I'm having a very difficult conversation, I will go into a freeze, and it literally looks like a tightening. My eyes close, I tighten, I hold my breath. So for me, that's like a freeze. It stays just real tight like this. And then for shutdown, that's when I need to be in a dark room. I need to be in the bed. I have no motivation to do anything. Yeah. I sleep a lot. Really different.
That's exactly how I would. Yeah, that's exactly the images in my mind of the difference between those two. Yeah, I think that's exactly how they could look like. Yeah, so she says life threat and ice. Our bodies typically respond to feeling unsafe by shifting from liquid to water. And I don't think we need more metaphors either. I think the polyvagal ladder is kind of perfect. So I think I see people keep trying to add new metaphors and their own spin, and I get it. But I haven't been able to do better than the polyvagal ladder, because I've tried to think of like my own as well. It's just I don't know if we can get better than that. So if steam doesn't get us safe, if we can't fight or flee our way out of threat, ice immobilizes us. Okay, its physiological action is a metabolic drop and shutdown. Yeah, so she's describing shutdown like we're a limb collapse, and it comes on strongly and evokes the release of endogenous opiates or painkillers to numb us out to impending death. Okay, ice is the threat response of last resort, whereas the emotional continuum of steam is anger and fear. That of ice is akin to depression. It's a withdrawal, a collapse, a social death. It correlates with dissociation. So she's describing shutdown. Mm-hmm. But it bugs me because ice is frozen, which you would think would appeal to the mixed state of freeze, which is this tense, stiff. You know what I mean? Versus shutdown, which is this collapse. So I don't think ice metaphorically fits with that. So that kind of bugs me. I get what she's saying, but it just kind of bothers me,
Yeah. So lesson learned for me: read the article before I send it.
God.
Yeah.
It's it's fine. I think the metaphor for the most part works, but just those little things just kind of bug me.
Yeah. I think people are trying to help those that are not really doing the study try to understand, make it simple, but it's not accurate.
Well, yeah, and people tend to focus on the behavior, the outward appearance of it, and they don't differentiate freeze and shutdown. And I think we lose sight of that it's a biological sequence of events. It's a biological thing. I don't know the right word, but it's biology. It's not just behavior.
Behavior.